The show is First Things First. My first thing every day, giving thanks, giving praises, asking for blessings from God Almighty, asking for blessings from the ancestors and the elders, and opening the doors to this here thing that we do every weekday. Hour one, local headlines, hot topics, conversations. This being a Mind Right Monday, we will seek balance, we will seek understanding, progress. Hour two, we go into the national, the international, and beyond. And we also invite you to change the subject. The phone lines are always open, but in hour two, you can set the agenda at 800-920-1580, 800-920-1580. Hour three, it's a daily deep dive with a person of expertise, a person of interest. And of course, today will be no exception. It is a Mind Right Monday, so we're going to stick with the whole get your head together conversation. And Mark Anthony Clayton Johnson will be joining us in the third hour of the show. My partner in politics to help get it all right, I guess you could say get it all together on a Monday, is a longtime community activist. Well, you know what? I don't even want to say interventionist. Is that the word we still use? Scholar and just a person who's making things better in this community every single day with the work that he does through his organization, Second Call. Skipp Townsend, good morning.
Good morning, Dominique. Thank you for having me this
Thanks
morning.
for coming in. It's good to see you.
It's good to be seen and not viewed. So many people have passed away over the last 3-4 years.
Man,
so
yeah.
Grateful to be alive.
Even more than usual. That is true. That is true. I always like to start with what's good. And of course, there's always lots of things good going on. But I want to pass the mic to you for this because you generate so much good through the organization Second Call. So tell us what you got going on, what's good. So many of the things that people complain about are the things that you're working on.
Yes, indeed. Thank you for that, Dominique. We are real close. I mean, like elbow close to Sankofa Park, which is being built at the Vernon, Crenshaw, Lamert area. And what a lot of people don't really realize is that that project is over 28% black individuals who have worked on that project, and the payroll is about 50% has gone to African Americans. So it's really a pleasure to be building the same community that we're often overlooked in, and it's our community. So the goal was 70% local hire, and I think we're at about 50%, but we have a new phase coming up. And, these are unofficial numbers. This is from my count, and I dropped out of school 11th grade, but I'm close. If it's not 28%, it's 28.1 or something like that, but that's really good. And also, we're directly across the street from Lamert Park, where I have ambassadors. I have 5 ambassadors that work there every day to handle all of the homeless issues and handle the, lost child, or, grandma has got dementia and she walked off. So we're the ones there dealing with homeless and mental health and all the issues, so that police don't always have to make contact with our community, because a lot of times it's negative contact. So we want to keep a balance where
negative, and even if it is a negative, it's unnecessary, right? Since we're always hearing about how police need more resources, it's great to have a community workers on the ground doing things that don't need police,
right,
and probably are more constructive without
exactly
officers involved.
Yeah, they're from the community. So
right. So Second Call, circle back a little bit to the Sankofa Park, which is right next to KBLA, by the way, in Lamert Park,
mm-hmm.
and explain what Second Call's part in that is, because you say, oh, we have about 50%, but Second Call has something to do with the fact that we do see so many African American faces. Of course, so does our council member, Marquise Harris Dawson, who envisioned and pushed for this project. Help get the money. But tell me about Second Call's involvement.
So Second Call, we are the job coordinators. We are the ones who help the local community members get on the job. So a lot of people just think you have to show up and be there, but no, you have to show up early. You have to be drug free. You have to have a valid driver's license. There's steps to this. To get into a union career, the laborers have to go to a boot camp. The carpenters go to a boot camp. Electricians have a 6 to 8 month process. So we get a list of workers who are ready to go. We want the ones who are healthy and ready to go, and we're the ones that we get put on this project.
And second call helps them get ready.
Yes, we help them
Yeah.
get ready, whatever it takes. And then I'm a different kind. So I purposely go and look for a blood who is active and a Crip who is active, and I get them on the same work site and see them work side by side. And that fills the soul of the people, fills the soul for me. But for the people, what it does is it brings the level of violence in the community down as well. When we have relationships now with individuals, we help them get to work. So a lot of people just see, oh, it's a black face, it's a black face. But to me, it's more than that. These are two guys who would never sit down and talk to each other, who are now working side by side.
Secondcall.org, the number 2, and then ND, and then call.
Yes.
Secondcall.org if you want to find out more. We do have a lot to talk about the anniversary of the death of Briana Taylor, and some commemorations that happened, and some local conversation. Boy, there's a lot going on. So we'll unpack that as we come forward with Skipp Townsend on KBLA, Talk 1580. More on first. Friend, because neither one of us are old. My longtime friend.
Right.
Yeah.
Still young and active.
Yes, indeed, we are. Skipp Townsend of Second Call, secondcall.org. So 2 years since the killing of Briana Taylor by police in Louisville, Kentucky. And there were demonstrations all across the country. Tamika Palmer, who is the mother of Briana Taylor, was there marching and organizing in Kentucky. And she's still looking for some kind of justice, some kind of closure, I guess, if you will. But we know that Brett Hankinson was found not guilty on those charges. We also know there were commemorations all across the country. We here in LA, we were up at Norman O. Houston Park with Black Lives Matter LA. Black women are divine, celebrating Black women and uplifting the memory of Briana Taylor. It was a beautiful day, thanks to all who came out. They had free massages, they had free entertainment, lunch. The men were there too, and they were just loving and supporting on the women. It was really a beautiful day, and so thanks to Black Lives Matter LA Labor showed up, handed out groceries. It was just a lot of really good things going on. In your reflections, Skipp, on the 2-year angelversary of Briana Taylor.
I'm glad you called it an angelversary. That's special. I just think to myself, how people always have the quote, well, she must have done something or something was wrong, and people want to dig and want to validate why someone would shoot at people who were asleep. And to me, that's the real problem. That's the real issue. So I think Martin Luther King Jr. said it best, that if you stand by and do nothing, if you're doing absolutely nothing, then you're just as guilty, or you're just as much at fault for the things that go on in the community. And, of course, the way that our system is set up, no officers are going to be charged for that. And I think that that's an issue as well. And here in LA, where we finally got the DA who will do stuff about, officer-involved shootings, or, the over sentences of people and stuff like that, and they want to get rid of him. So when we get good
and
people,
by they, let's be specific, right?
Who they are?
Well, I'll be specific. It's the right wing. It's the people that never wanted him to win in the first place.
Right.
And some people that they have tricked. And that's, I guess, the part I would like you to address. Because people, what's happened, I think, is some Republicans and folks on the right have tried to organize and infiltrate victims rights groups,
right,
and get people to believe that they are more likely to get justice with a different district attorney, and that is just not the truth.
Right. So one of the things that I have the blessing of is being one of the board members of the victim services for the district attorney, and there are so many people who, and I don't want to say they infiltrated, because they started with them.
Okay.
They started with them. So I want to say people like myself have infiltrated this this movement, because what they wanted to do from the very beginning, that they have all the polyclass laws and the other laws, the Amber Alert. They have all these laws where they want to give people the death penalty or life and say they'll never come home, and that's the issue, because everyone in prison is not guilty. every murderer is not a gang member, and every gang member is not a murderer, but they want to paint a broad picture instead of looking at each and every situation. There are so many people, and I can name some people who have been overly sentenced, and some people who have been wrongfully convicted. And when you have individuals who won't even look at the evidence or new evidence, bring it into court so that we can get to the bottom, to the truth, that's the issue. So I think that these are some of the things that happen, and this is just not. This is the system that has been created that everybody supports.
Mm.
The system of just putting people in prison, whether they were right or wrong.
And throw away the key. It reminds me of when we were, when Three Strikes was on the ballot a long time ago, still on the radio then,
Right.
and how so many people in our community bought into it because they were tired of the crime in our community. And we weren't thinking about the fact that we were the ones that were going to be locking up.
Right.
It wasn't going to make things safer. It didn't make things safer because people are incarcerated for a long, long time. There was no rehabilitative piece to it. And as a result, what we've seen is just this mass warehousing of black and brown people.
Yeah, so then you take the fathers out the home for 17, 18 years before they can even come home. And then what you have is you have now children who have grown up without their father.
Not to mention when the dad
And
comes
mothers.
back, he can't even get a job unless he hooks up with Second Call.
Well, yes, indeed. We can get him a career, not a job.
Yeah.
But think about the dynamics at home where your children raise themselves, where the child's mother has moved on and maybe have kids by someone else, and that relationship is broken. And look at all the broken families that we have because of Three Strikes. And one guy, the first guy that I think made national headlines, was in Venice, and he stole a slice of pizza.
Yeah.
I mean, do you give somebody life for that?
But because it's the third strike.
Right.
Yeah, I was reading about this kid. This is something from the Griot, Byron Allen's website. There's a young man named Brandon Harris. He was friends with another guy named Sura Sona. They were friends in high school. One got a full ride scholarship to college. The other one got sent to jail. The guy, Brandon Harris, went to Davidson College, and he decided to do a research project to tell the story of his friend, Sura Sunha, who was in prison and was meant to be serving 12 years. Did a deep dive, did all this research, did a presentation, ends up that presentation prompts the family to be able to get the judge to hear the case again. The judge watches the presentation, and the friend gets out. They let him out.
That's powerful. And what's so powerful is I have a cousin named Brandon Harris, and I'm wondering if that's him.
Well, what I love about because this young man was charged as an adult, which is one of the things that Gascon has refused to do, which is upsetting people. But hello,
Right.
Kids are not adults. Even when they do terrible things, they're not adults.
Right.
The fact, it also shows you how important it is for the ones that we do have to get them educated and get them the tools to do something like that.
Right. Right. I think it's very important. I think just the thought process anyway, and what does it take? And they were talking about the now vice president and how many times she refused as the attorney general for the state of California. How many times did she refuse to actually bring up new evidence and take it back into court? There's a friend of mine, a guy named Jan Brewer, and he told me he was evil back in the days, and he killed everybody in the house. And he was looking for one guy who was one of his friends, and he wasn't there. When he went to jail for the murders that he did, his friend was in jail with him, and they gave him the accomplice. Said the two of them did the murders. When he knew that he was looking to kill this guy, Roro, they call him Roro, Roosevelt. But anyway, Roosevelt's still in prison. Jan is home. And Jan has openly said if Roosevelt would have been there, Skipp would have killed him. So it's like, how do you do that?
So he was the intended victim, but he got the charge as the accomplice.
Exactly. And he's still, Roosevelt Allen, he's still in prison to this day. And it's these are some of the horrible stories that I hear all the time about wrongfully convicted Maurice Carroll, and how he's inside of a video game. He's 17, and the person next to him killed someone. But Maurice Carroll was still in jail. And that was the year 2000. So this is year number 22 for him, and he was 17, and he didn't do it. And the different laws, the AB 260, 261, dropped his 100 years down to like 50 or something, but he's still in jail, still in prison.
Well, and the other thing, I mean, and we know that people are wrongfully convicted all the time, especially black people, young black people, and Latino people. But the other piece of that is that even when people do crime, we have to think about not throwing them away.
Exactly.
And we have to think about proportionality. And you look at, I mean, just the fact that black folks and Latino folks are sentenced so much more harshly, that's not me saying it. Study after study, all the data support this.
Right.
You got a bias built into the system. And so we go, right now I feel like we're going into this Ronald Reagan, Richard Nixon playbook of, scare everybody against.
Bill Clinton too. Why you leave him out?
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah. I didn't mean to.
Right.
Didn't mean to. Mr. Crime Bill himself.
Right.
This, scare people about gang members, scare people about black people, scare people about Latino people. Yes, we have a rise in crime, but so many of the crimes. Oh my goodness! I was reading the paper this week, and I'm like, they're just horrendous. A lady killing her child. A man killing his family.
Those are mental health issues.
Yeah.
So really, I mean, yes, they are crimes, but those are issues where people have, if anyone ever wants to hurt their own children, it's a mental health issue, and we have to start from there.
Yeah, well, and I mean, I hate to say this, but I don't think we should be that surprised, given what we've been through in the past couple of years, that people are snapping. So that's why I started this Mind Right Monday. It's like, how do you get yourself together? How do you get your family together and understand that 1,000 more police on your block is not going to stop a man from snapping or a woman from snapping and sending violence upon their family.
But that's what people ask for. People ask for more police officers when I think it's more of a conversation. It's more of, how do we dialogue with each other? Do we have effective communication with each other? As a matter of fact, when we see each other, do we say, how are you? How are you doing? And not just allow, oh, I'm okay. No, but actually sit down and say, well, tell me what's going on in your day. Even if you're the most popular person to the most unpopular, it doesn't matter. It's like trauma. It has to come out the body. It's like food poisoning. I got to get everything out, or else it's inside killing me. And if I don't want to hurt myself, I might want to hurt others. If we look at displaced anger, think about somebody cuts me off, or somebody does something, steps on my shoe or whatever, and I don't know this person. The reason why I would be mad and trip on this person is because of other stuff that I have going on, other issues that I might want to punch somebody at home. I might want to punch my 14-year-old son, and now when this young person cuts me off in traffic, I might take it out on them and not ever take it out on my son, or vice versa. I might be going through something at work, and now I come home and I want to take it out on my kids or my wife or something. So it's a lot of displaced anger because there's no outlet. There's no healthy outlet. Let me say that. Yeah. There's no healthy outlet.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that when we come forward. We've got news and traffic right now, but let's take a look at what some of those tools are that help us process. Not that we can do the whole curriculum right here, but we can give a taste. It's KBLA, Talk 1580. Has their own curriculum, but it's similar, right, in terms of life skills. Learning how to process your own feelings and help those around you process their feelings, not just in some kind of airy-fairy way, but in a very kind of practical way to keep me from doing something that I will later regret.
So that's the one thing the second call does is we do not allow anyone to not use the I statement. So it's about, how do I deal with anger? How do I deal with emotions? How do I deal with low self-esteem? How do I deal with depression as a man? Because most men who find themselves depressed will smoke or drink their way out of a situation, as opposed to really saying, I need help. So that's the I think second call was definitely built on the basis of the Amer-I-Can and what Looney and Bo Taylor taught me, and we got from the Jim Brown's curriculum.
In peace, Looney.
Yeah, rest in peace, Bo, Looney,
Bo Taylor, Ronnie Barron.
Yeah. So I think the foundation.
Rocky.
Yeah, the foundation came from the Amer-I-Can, but what we've done is taken more in depth into how to deal with the traumas as well. The unresolved and vicarious traumas are at the top of our list. How do we deal with that? Because it has to come out, just like food poisoning. It's in the body and it hurts, and the only way to heal from it is to get it out of the body, and that's how we deal with trauma.
So one of the things that I did when I was in the Amer-I-Can curriculum, which I graduated from many years ago.
Yeah, you graduated from me.
With my bonus daughter, Isa. We took that together. Anyway, one of the things I loved is that we would always, when we were in the circle, we would always check in one word, one feeling word. And I'm pretty sure you guys do something like that.
Oh, yes, we do. That came from Amer-I-Can as well. At second call, I don't care if we're in Georgia or Pasadena, Long Beach, the very first way that we open up is give me your name and give me a word that best describes how you feel. And that opens up and it allows people to be emotionally safe to say, I'm feeling good or I'm feeling bad.
It's such a simple thing, but it does make a difference. It makes you feel seen. It made me feel seen.
Yes, indeed.
And then when you're in that circle, if somebody says something that you relate to, you could comment on that. So to me, that connected people.
Right. So I comment, but I comment in the first person. So I don't say, hey, look, what you're going through and give advice. What I do is say, well, when I went through something similar, and I never want to compare and say that I'm going through what you're going through,
right.
But I do want to say that I went through something similar and this is what I did. And I found out the way I did it was wrong or the way I did it helped me.
And, right. And sometimes it's just as simple as I can relate because I'm feeling the same way today.
Right. And some people don't even talk throughout the group. And then at the end, what we do is say, out of everything we talked about, is there any one thing that stood out to you? And at that point, some people who haven't even shared just break down crying or get up and run out the room because everything stood out to them. And it was as if it was their story as well. So.
Well, and part of the power of that for me was it was a group of people that were real. There were people from the community. It wasn't like I'm going to sit up here and say, oh, my feeling word is PhD because I have a PhD and everything.
Oh, no,
it was like real actual people that could be your neighbors.
Right.
And we would talk on the most unfiltered way, and that for me that was a big deal.
So that is it. It's unfiltered. So people who would like to have a filter, you'll be in a room with maybe 1,000 years of prison time, and
and me and my bonus daughter were the only people not on probation or parole in that group, but we still benefited.
But did
just
you see
as
the
much.
Healing process?
Yes, of course. And it wasn't just the guys on probation. Me and my bonus daughter, I think we may have benefited even more.
Yes, indeed. I've learned so many people have that thought they were coming in there to support someone else or coming in thinking this is not for me, but I'm going to sit in anyway, and they get the most out of it.
Yeah, that was when I was on the Steve Harvey morning show when I went through the curriculum, and whew, I think that might have saved me quite a few unnecessary conversations.
Right.
So talk about the decision-making process, because that's the one thing I always quote, and I'm sure there's a version of that within second call.
So no, we use that version right there, and I have to stop people in the middle and tell them where I got it from, because I don't want them to think this is a second call message. When in any situation, the one thing I do is eliminate the negative, establish the facts, and choose my best option. And there's another guy, Puppet, who made sure that I understood it had to come in that order. That when I say I got to eliminate the negative, establish the facts, and choose my best option, I can't take it out of order because anything could happen in that. Immediately, I have to eliminate the negative. If it's an argument, if it's a situation, he tells of a story where a guy with a gun, guy with a bag of weed, asked him for a ride home. And he said if he would have tried to establish the facts or choose his best option before he eliminated the negative, he would have went to jail with them. He said he had to eliminate the negative. So you got weed, okay, hold on a second. Let me walk away and think about this. So he immediately went across the street, and when he went across the street, that's the time when the police hit the corner. So he said immediately he had to eliminate the negative, and it just gave him the opportunity to not be a part of what they were a part of.
Eliminate the negative for him in that situation sounds like was figure out what's going on and how it would negatively impact him.
Right, but he needed a moment to think about,
right.
so.
Eliminate the negative is, unfortunately, for me, it isn't a light switch. Sometimes it does take a minute.
Yeah, like a dimmer switch, huh?
Yeah, it's not. I can't just flip a switch. Sometimes I have to talk myself off the ledge because a lot of the time the negative is me.
Right. So one of the blessings of me being around Bo is I met other people like Akil Bashir, and Akil Bashir taught me that hesitation to get me killed. He said hesitation to get you killed. Do not hesitate. If you know you're about to make the right decision, make it. and don't hesitate. So that hesitation, that sitting back thinking, what is my best option, and going through it.
Right, but sometimes you got to count to 10.
Right.
At least I do, or I'll
Right.
say something that will create a problem for me that could last for years.
Oh, so you need
I
a
don't know
filter.
if that counts as hesitation.
Right.
Yeah.
No, that's a pause in conversation.
Yeah,
No,
that's for me. That's the walking across the street. And
right.
what is going on here? Okay, what
Right.
are the facts? Now that I've got my attitude out of the way, what
Right.
exactly is actually going on?
Right.
Not how I feel about it, but
Right. Yeah.
what are the facts?
And think about that too. When people ask you, how are you feeling?
Mhm.
And you respond how you're feeling, but that's not actually what you're doing. So what am I doing? Like if I see you, haven't seen you in a while, I don't want to say, hey, how you feeling? I want to say, how are you doing? What's
Mhm.
going on? What are you doing?
Well, maybe that's why we sometimes say how you be, because
Right.
that's really what's important.
Yes, indeed. Because I think a lot of times, there's conversations about emotions and there's conversations about logic and reason. And can I separate the two on how I'm feeling?
And you really
doing?
can't choose your best option if you don't know what the facts are,
Right.
or if your vision is blurred by anger, resentment, reaction. At least I can't.
Right. I think that's where that 10-second or walking across the street comes from.
Yeah.
If it's a situation like that. But a situation where I want to go home tonight. I don't want to be in jail. I don't want to be dead or in prison. And it's not a situation of arguing or getting angry with someone, but just being around the wrong people or being in the wrong circle or hearing the wrong things that are going on. Now let me...
it's the something told me.
Right.
Because people are always like, something told me to leave that party. But you didn't, though. And
Right.
then that's
so
the hesitation that you're
here's
talking about.
Right. So here's another thing with second call. We talk about the triggers. What does your body do? Do you get the adrenaline rush? Do you get butterflies? Those are warning signs that the body is saying something's not right.
Yeah.
And what I want to do is always recognize my warning signs from my body.
Talking with Skipp Townsend, secondcall.org is where you can find more of his work. It's KBLA, Talk 1580. Second call, Wolfpack, which anyone is invited to do, right?
Yes, anyone can come out any Thursday night in LA, 3500 South Normandy, or any Monday night in Pasadena, 236 West Mountain at the Flint Ridge Center, Suite 107.
And people can drop by. These are things that help people who are, people get assigned this if they have issues in their lives. But I'm telling you, having gone through a similar curriculum, that it can help anybody. When we talk about Mind Right Monday, it's like, what do I need to know, do, or understand that can help me to do better?
Well, I think the one thing that has helped me is to understand who I am. I have to learn about self. So everything that we discuss at Second Call is about how can I learn to be a better person. So a lot of people come thinking, oh, I want to be an electrician. I want to be a carpenter. I want to do this and that. And that's not even what we talk about. We talk about, how do I deal with anger? How do I deal with emotion? How do I deal with low self-esteem or depression as a man? How do I deal with my everyday life situations? Because if I'm a bad hamburger flipper at McDonald's, then I'm going to be a bad carpenter, a bad electrician. Matter of fact, I'm going to be a bad father and a bad son, a bad husband, a bad whatever. So we talk about issues on how to just be a better person.
And people end up being carpenters and electricians, and
yes, that's
many times.
Yes, so there's a lot of them out
there.
there.
If they choose that.
Right, if they choose. And I mean, and everybody's not there for that. We have some ladies who attend the class and they're there and they say it just to be a part of the Wolfpack, just so that they can, express themselves, because it's a place to freely express
and not be judged.
Yes, not be. There's no way anyone in there could judge.
Well, I know I didn't feel judged, and that's rare.
Right.
So yeah, I encourage you, if you need some tools, or somebody in your life needs some tools that you might be able to convince to go. It's secondcall.org. Some people aren't great online. Do you have a number you can give out?
Yes, it's 323 area code 763-2888.
323-763-2888. All right, so just don't have too much time. Time flies when you're on the radio. You mentioned Gascon. You mentioned the environment that we're in now, where we've elected Gascon. We passed Measure R, we passed Measure J, and now we're fighting for the very things that the voters overwhelmingly approved. Also, we have a sheriff's race. So this election season is pretty important.
Yes, it is. The sheriff race really it kind of makes me nervous. Like what's next in store for the sheriff. So we have individuals who are um, competent and can deal with the sheriff department, and I don't believe that society is looking at those individuals. They're looking at what we've normally had. People are still dealing with fear and thinking that if we have more sheriff deputies or more police officers, we'd have a safer environment. But that's just not the case because even with the situation, the massacre that happened in Inglewood, where four people were murdered at a party January 23rd, there's absolutely nothing more sheriff or more harsher sentencing laws or anything like that could have done to prevent that. So we have to stop and think that, whenever there's a tragedy, what could the police have done prior, proactive? They're not proactive, so they can't do anything.
What could have stopped that, Skipp? I mean, and those were really basically children.
Yes, none of them were over 25. None of them were 26. I think the oldest girl was 25 and the boys was 20 and 21. So I think one of the things that happens is we need what we have here, ambassadors. We need intervention. Inglewood has no intervention. So there are people who talk on the phone every now and again. But if we would have known there was a party, because there was another party down the street, intervention could have intervened and say, hey, is everybody good? From what I'm told, they interacted anyway and got along and everything was fine. But had there been intervention just to find out and do something proactive, maybe make some phone calls and say, hey, look, we need this protected. That's proactive when we're talking about before the shooting starts, not anything after the shooting.
Right. We're talking with Skipp Townsend. Second Call is his organization, and I want to.
Can I shout out those mothers though? Because I met Tiffany; those were her two daughters. I met Shaniqua and Charlene. Um, Shanika and Charlene,
The mamas whose
the
children were
mamas
killed
who,
at that
yeah,
party.
Teron Whitaker and
Oh.
and Jaden Griffith. Those mothers was Shanika and Charlene. So I've been close to them since, and I just want to say that they haven't got recognition. They haven't got them, even I don't want to put him out there, but somebody in high power in Inglewood said they were gang members. Which
My whole thing is, even if they are, they don't deserve to be murdered, and they still deserve
right.
to be the families respected and taken care of.
Yes, indeed.
It's KBLA Talk 1580.